Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video, Lee is going to be setting up a GUI skin.
Right. Now, this isn't going to be the actual, well, it could be the GUISkin that we end up with. Matter of fact, I'll do it anyways just so we can have some fun. But what we're going to do is we're going to create some new folders for this. So we're going to do create folder, rename this. This will be UI because this is where we're going to put our UI elements into. Inside of here, I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call this one resources, because anything that you want to access from scripts pretty much needs to be in a resources folder.
Okay.
Inside of here, let's create a GUISkin. Now, I'm not going to dive into all the things that make up a GUISkin because there's a lot of them, and it takes a lot of practice to get comfortable with these because they can get, kind of confusing. We're going to call our GUISkin UI skin. And inside of here, I'm only going to deal with one of our styles. The style that I want to look at is going to be the box style. Now, by default, our box style comes in with some textures for various settings. So we've got one for our normal. And do we have one for our hover, or is it just the one? I thought. Oh, okay, good. So it's only just the one for the box. But I have my own texture that we're going to replace with the default. So, Jason, if you could bring in that texture, we'll throw it right inside of the UI resources folder.
Okay. There
Right.
you go.
So now, this texture has come in. If we look at it, it's using the default settings. I'm not going to change anything here.
Can we throw a little bit of perspective on this at the moment? So when you're talking about the box that you're about to set up, what part of the UI are we concerning ourselves with at the moment? For those out there that have never worked with any of the Unity GUI elements before.
Yeah, I guess I could do that. It costs extra though.
Okay.
So, on payday.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. All right. So, what Jason would like to demonstrate, I believe, we can show fairly simply, if kind of in a rough form. Let's go ahead, and we're not going to worry about our stencil brush right now, though we'll have to revisit it. And same with our noise brush. Terrain sculptor, I'll leave that open for now. Let's grab our terrain demo. Inside of terrain demo, we have an onGUI method here. Now, what I'm going to be messing with is a GUI control called a GUI.box. Now, a GUI.box, by default, can be defined simply with a new rectangle. So, if I take a new rectangle, and let's define this with screen.width divided by 2 minus, in this case, let's go with 150 by screen.height divided by 2 again minus, let's go 75. We'll set our width to be 300 and our height to be 150. This will give us a box that's twice as wide as it is high, centered around the center of the screen. Now, we've got several different overloads. We can set up a GUI content. We can set text. We can put an image in it. We can use specific GUI styles, an image and a GUI style. Well, to start off with, I'm going to use just the text overload of this. So, comma, and wow, okay, awesome. No, I'm not putting hello world in. So, God, that drives me nuts. I gotta fix it. I have to. All right, so this will draw us a box every time onGUI gets called. onGUI is one of those special methods in that it doesn't get called a single time a frame. It literally gets called twice a frame. So there are some special considerations that you can make to try to limit the number of times things get called inside of there, but we're not going to cover that. Just you can do some searching on the Unity forums if you want to learn some of that stuff. It's particularly about when things need to be repainted as a hint. All right, so if we go ahead and hit play, give it a sec, we have a box drawn in the center of our screen that is semi-transparent and has the word hello on it. And it's got rounded corners. So this is the default box that we get, which isn't quite what I want our box for our UI to look like, which is why we're getting into creating our own GUISkin. Now, I'm going to modify this slightly as well, and if I can stop this, we have the ability to load in our own custom skins. By default, GUI controls and elements have their own look to them. And we can overload that look by using our own custom skins.
Overload or override it?
Override.
Okay.
Interchangeable words in my language.
Gotcha.
So we're going to create a new variable called skin. And we're going to use the resources.load. And we're going to load in our UI skin. And we need to cast it as a GUI skin for everything to be happy. Now, one of the overloads that we have in here is we can still use the text, but we can take a GUI style. Now, a GUI style are those individual things that make up a GUI skin. So if I jump back over into Unity and we pull up our UI skin, we have several different styles in there. We've got a style for a box, a button, toggle, label, text field, text area, window, and then the sliders, scroll bars. These are all styles. Scroll view. And then we've got the ability to set custom styles, which we can create. And these have all the properties that come with each one of the styles. And this gets into more complicated stuff along the way. But we can define any one of the built-in styles. This will override the default behavior with what we tell it to do. Or we can create our own custom styles in addition to the defaults. So the way we use this in code is we load in our skin, and normally I would put this up at the top and load it in once instead of every time we do onGUI. But just for simplicity's sake, keep it all so I don't have to hunt all over the place to remove this stuff. We can call our skin, and we can pick any one of the built-in styles. So here's the box, button. We've got custom styles. And if we scroll down, we can see that there are all the styles that you saw with a skin accessible from here. The one that we're going to use is going to be this box. So if I build this out and I go back to Unity and I play, give it a sec, it looks exactly the same because we're using the default behavior of our box. But because we're using a skin, we've got the ability to adjust stuff. And that's one of the neat things. We can adjust things in our skin, in the inspector, and have it update real time. Which is one of the handy things about using a skin as opposed to defining a style inside of code and hard coding all of these values inside of script. Can be done, and there are times that I do that. But this is kind of handy if you're messing around with stuff and you need to try things out. So that one's text color. The one we care about is going to be this background. Now, I'm going to change it from box, and literally I could pick anything I want. So I could pick, our alpha, but it does some weird stuff. Kind of stretches it all out. But then we have
Right there.
our box that we've set up, and this changes our overall look.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not exactly the way it's supposed to look. If you look around it, this little white highlight is only supposed to be a single pixel high. And it looks more than a single pixel. Same with the highlight on the bottom. And in general, it just doesn't look very sharp. Though I can't really see it on my side because of the compression stuff. But there are things that we can do. So if we look at our box and we scroll down, we've got our border information, we've got padding information, and we've got margin. Now this can get interesting. If I set my borders all to 0, we get something that looks really, really bad. And I'm going to literally set my paddings, my margins, and my borders all down to 0. We're going to start with not so much the defaults, but if we had no information on it. Now, borders. What are borders? Our texture is designed in such a way that by typing in numbers of the border, we can determine exactly how many of the pixels on the left it's going to consider as the left side of our box, how many pixels on our right is decided by our right border. Our top is how many of the pixels across the top of our image are there, and the bottom across the bottom. Now, the easiest way to try to explain this is back into Photoshop. If I bring this up into full screen, you can see how the box is laid out. This is a 32 by 32 pixel image. What you're defining by borders is how much unique information makes up, well, let's do rulers. Control R, yeah. All right. We're defining with the top border saying that we need this much unique information to dictate what is the top of our box. With our bottom, we can set what is the unique information for the bottom of our box.
And what you mean by that is the information that's not going to, in this case for top and bottom, stretch vertically.
Correct. It's going to be a one-to-one relation. And then we do the same with the left.
And this, of course, will be for preventing it from scaling both left and right in a horizontal fashion.
Correct. So what we're saying is this is the top, this is the bottom, this part is the left of the box, this is the right, and these are the 4 corners of our box. So by defining our our border, we're saying this number of pixels are fixed, and that whatever is left in this center part is what is going to be scaled across the rest of the box definition. So,
of course, you'll still have scaling with the top and the bottom, but only horizontally, and you'll have scaling with the left and the right, but only vertically. Otherwise, you would never be able to scale that up.
What? You mean the center part?
No, out on the sides, like here. This can stretch up, and this can stretch down. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
We're locking this by designating this as left and right. We're simply saying that we have these 2 pixels right here. We're not going to be able to stretch those over to, like, say, 6 pixels left or right.
Right.
We're locking these, but they can and will be able to stretch vertically.
This entire thing, yes, vertical.
Exactly.
The corners are fixed. Mm-hmm. They're the only ones that are really fixed.
Right.
When you're defining here, this will not stretch, this will not stretch. Same with the bottom 2. But these will stretch horizontally. These stretch vertically. You could get away with literally defining this as this particular shape. We could define as small as cutting out everything but the 4 corners, having 1 pixel that is 2 pixels high here, or 1 row of pixels column of pixels.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 high here, 1 row that is 2 here, and only a single pixel in the center, and define the same shape and
Mm-hmm.
be able to get a box that scaled just like this one is.
Exactly.
I'm using 32 by 32 just because it's a nice power of 2 and was easy to work with because I wasn't quite sure how my borders were all going to play out with. So now if we go back over into Unity and we go back to our GUISkin, we've said that our left border is 2 pixels, our right is 2 pixels, our top is 2 pixels, and our bottom is 2 pixels. And that fixes most of it. And it's like, oh, well, you said there wasn't going to be any stretching. The artifacting that we're seeing isn't a problem with our borders. It is a problem with our underlying image, which is the other reason I wanted to have this separate video to show you the settings that I use to dial in my textures when I'm using them for GUI elements. Now, the padding and the margin have to deal with spacing, where if you look right now, hello is butted all the way up across the top. Now, if I take my top padding and I put 5, it's going to take my text and pad in 5 pixels. So I could do 20, and that pads it in as well. Now, because of the way my text is aligned on this thing, I'm not going to get anything left and right easily. And let's see, upper center, unless I go to, let's say, upper left. Now my left padding will become apparent, so I can space in by 4. If I set my alignment to upper right, then I can do padding off to the right, but it moves just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right's kind of a weird guy because of the way the text works. And then the same with if I go, let's say, lower center, and I do 4 here. So that is what's going on with padding. Padding controls how much offset from the borders of another object inset something inside of it's going to be. So if I go ahead and put this back up to upper center, margin, I don't think we're going to be able to see this. I'll try it. So top, if I set the 20, yeah, it's not going
No,
to
you're
show.
not going to.
Margin, what that does is if this element is inside of another element, this will control how much spacing it is from the top. So basically where this is offsetting hello, if I had the ability to put a margin on this hello and I set its top margin to 5, we would be pushed down by 9 pixels. The 4 from the padding and the 5 for the margin. But we just don't see that. But that's what these settings are doing for you. Now, let's go ahead and look at the texture settings to clean this up. So if we go to our box texture, one of the things that we need to look at doing is pretty much anything that's going to be a GUI needs to be a point. So now we're cleaning this up a lot so it gets a lot sharper. Then our wrap mode, set to clamp. Now, max size, usually you want to get closest that you can possibly get. This is why we're using 32 instead of something smaller, other than the fact it's in addition to the fact that it's easier to work with something that's got 32 pixels than it is with something that only has 7. So that's another reason. So if I go ahead and apply the 32, we're going to see we're not getting a whole lot here. Now, the next bit is going to be in the advanced settings. Once again, because it's a GUI and it's not going off in the distance, we don't want generate bitmaps. So we can change that. Not much of a change here. And we want to, what else am I missing? Because there should be another one. Are you seeing the borders around the edges?
Yes.
So, okay, so it's not just me. So clamp, advance, 2 nearest, y are non-power of 2. So, okay, that's not going to apply here because I am at a power of 2. So I'm still missing one other. I think that might be in the GUISkins because I think I'm using 3 on mine. So 3, 3, 3, 3. It cleans up, but not enough. 6. There's one.
Yeah, that's getting you very close now.
Right, but something's still not quite. Because now I'm using some really large numbers that are probably, yeah, I wish I could see exactly what it's looking like. Because 2, 2, and 2 should cover it. I'm using 3 on mine. Whoops, not 33. That would not be good. So I'm using 3, 3, and 3, but I don't see these borders because I'm seeing a bright line here, which means it's picking up more information that it's not supposed to, which is usually indicator of it blending across. So what is that one? I need
So
to.
is stretch width contributing?
No, I leave those on mine as well, so it should be fine. I'm looking at my settings on, figure out exactly what ones I've got. So on my box, I'm using borders of 4. And then on my texture, and where is my box texture? Oh, okay. I forgot about that one. There you go. So you got 4s on all those?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about this one. Compression. So because there's alpha on this, and by automatic, it is picking up DXT compression, so you're getting compression artifacts.
Looks good to me.
Yeah. So I forgot to turn off the compression, use RGBA alpha 32.
Gotcha.
So that kills that part. I knew there was something I was missing. No, I really don't want to restart my computer now. Maybe later. So with that, let's see if we can get away with borders of 2. And we should be able to.
It should be able to based off what we saw over in Photoshop. And yeah,
Yep.
looks good.
Okay, good. So, but those are what our borders do. And one of the things to check with your settings is make sure you got texture format off, filter mode to point, wrap mode to clamp, and no bitmaps.
Right.
So, and that will help you get nice sharp images from Photoshop into your GUI elements. Otherwise, you end up with some really weird results. Particularly, I always keep forgetting about the compression artifacts. That's a easy one to miss, and it causes problems, obviously, as we just demonstrated.
So you have an obviously by using this this custom skin with this custom texture, you've created a nicer looking box for our needs.
Right, because we don't want our box to be transparent. So, well, actually, I can demonstrate that on this video as well. We'll go ahead and stop this part. The nice thing is GUI UI skin settings are persistent, so you can set them while playing. And so are the image settings, as opposed to some of the things in Unity, if you adjust while you're playing, you lose those settings. Those are ones that you don't. So, but if we were to modify our information here, and I can demonstrate an interesting little issue here. If we say we want our GUI box to start all the way on the left of our screen, and we want it to be the width of our screen, And then let's say we wanted a box that is, let's just for now call this 56 pixels high. You would think that, all right, where do we want to put it? Oh, screen height. So we've got to go screen height minus 56. Now, this is where things get really fun. GUI elements, for some reason, respect that 0 is the top of the screen and screen height is the bottom. So you got to set your screen height to 0 minus 56 down to 56. That will draw it at the bottom of the screen. With mouse input, that dictates 0 being the lower left corner of your screen. And there's a couple of other things that are all based off the fact that your screen 0 is lower left, but then they decided to make GUI components track upper left as 0, which really will mess with your head. I have no idea why they did it that way, other than another one of those things that they were just laughing about. Well, they are from Norway, right?
What? Denmark?
Denmark. Where's Amsterdam?
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Wow.
At 6 o'clock in the morning. Hold on, I can Google that.
Holy.
I want to go there.
Holy.
What?
I've been there before, a couple of times actually.
See, I've not. Well, it's in the Netherlands. Is that close?
To here? No.
No, to Denmark.
Well, all of that's kind of close over there.
Well, that's true. Everything's connected by the rail. All right, so here we go. Here's our box all the way down on the bottom. So, well, that was interesting. So here is an interesting artifact that I found, which seems to be working on yours. Depending on your screen resolution, you'll find sometimes you get gaps off to the side, so it's
Yeah,
not
there's
necessary.
a little gap on both of them right there.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can't tell on my side. So even though, and it kind of messes up the edge border, I can't tell. If you look at the left and right edges, does the pixel look fuzzed out?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it look sharp on yours?
That looks sharp on mine.
Okay. On my screen, well, on my R&D machine, not this virtual, is I've noticed that there's a pixel gap on the right-hand side. The left side lines up fairly well, but then there's a gap on one side, and the edge of the border is kind of messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do to compensate that is I inset both by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this also points up another problem. Once we start putting in our box at the bottom, we need to deal with our debugger, and we'll take care of that in another video. But what back to the box issue, what I usually do to fix this is I just set it to 1 pixel, and then I go to width in by 1 pixel. Instead of 2 pixels, it only does it 1 because it seems like it's already inset by 1 pixel. So by insetting it just that additional pixel, then I get the effect that it's even across both sides.
Yeah, it looks good.
So that was just something that I found with the R&D that I've been messing with. But I just wanted to demonstrate what a GUISkin is and how to best deal with bringing in textures when you're planning on putting them on to GUI elements.
Okay.
So, and that applies with all of our icons and stuff that we will be putting on our bar. We'll have to bring them in, go and adjust all their settings, make sure they're point filter and clamped, and then make sure that they're not using compression. Now, everything else in the world where we don't really care if it gets a little pixel or a little bit of noise, like on the train, yeah, that's fine to use compression. But your UI elements, You don't want compression on them because they will get fuzzed out or have artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll just be wondering why things don't look as good as they could.
Gotcha. All right. Well, with that, that's going to wrap up this video, and we'll move into the next where we're going to be getting all of our resources for this UI setup. Thanks a lot, everyone.